Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you are. It's Mike. Thanks for watching my videos. It's December 22nd. 3 sleeps to Christmas. This will probably be my last video before Christmas, so don't expect anything else until after Christmas. Which means that I've got to pack as much as possible into this particular report. So we're going to start with something comical, and end with something of a cheery note. Because everyone's getting far too serious. There's good reason to be, but it is Christmas. Into the red, lipstick effect reveals the true face of the recession. Okay, you'll notice they're still calling it a recession. However, right, what's this? Okay, through all the previous recessions and even in the Great Depression, lots of different industries collapsed and lots of people were out of work and unemployed and whatnot. But there's one industry that has consistently done very well in recessions compared to all other industries, and that is cosmetics. For some reason, women still like to have their face look nice and to wear nice red lipstick or whatever. Whatever makes them feel good. Okay, I'm going to blast through these real quick without much analysis. Independent today. Front page. Britain's job bloodbath. Beginning January. Britain faces an unemployment bloodbath in the new year with many tens of thousands jobs axed in the public and private sectors, according to a cabinet minister. They don't say which cabinet minister, but basically, they're getting people ready. Get ready, everything's going to fall apart. Right. Down at the bottom. Decline in UK's GDP, worse than reported. I won't even go there. You want to read it? You can. GDP is completely made up anyway, but if you consider that a large percentage of GDP is consumption of goods, and that consumption of goods has dropped dramatically, one would logically assume that GDP is also going to drop dramatically. Now, if we say that, for instance in the States, 70% of GDP is consumption, and quite a lot of it is from imported goods. Nobody's importing anything anymore. So if you had a 30% drop in imports, you're going to have, 30% of 70% is 21% of GDP is just going to evaporate. Now, of course, the governments aren't going to let that happen. What they're going to do is modify the percentages of the GDP so that it comes out looking a little less scary. But it is still going to be an absolute bloody nightmare. IMF. Chief warns of even darker times unless governments spend more. The International Monetary Fund is basically saying that you really should be spending 2.2% of your GDP to try to invigorate the cash markets, the capital markets, etc. Head of the International Monetary Fund backed Gordon Brown's recession strategy yesterday by urging governments to pump more money into their economies or face a worsening downturn. Dominic Strauss-Kahn warned that the measures announced by the G20 nations in Washington last month may not be enough to kickstart the global economy. Yeah, go figure. The whole thing's falling to bits. We're going to hell in a handbasket, folks. Everybody clap those seatbelts on. The roller coaster is about to do a 6-month dip. Get ready. Protestors beaten as anger grows at Russian car import tax. Right. People are freaking out in Russia and China. Right here. Beijing prioritizes employment for graduates to head off unrest. What's happening? Russia, China, people are protesting all over the place. Oh, there's a bunch of protests going on in Greece, isn't there? Oh yeah, ostensibly that's because the police shot some 15-year-old boy in the back, and we started having a little protests around that. What they're not telling you in the news is that the majority of the protesters are people that have recently graduated from university and can't find work. There's no employment available for these young people in Greece. And they're getting just a little upset about this. Well, the same thing's happening in China, the same thing's happening in Russia. Now, the Russian thing, ostensibly, is because the Russians have imposed a certain tariff on imported cars in an effort to boost their own car production and manufacturing. So it costs you a lot more to get an imported car. And, people in Eastern Russia really like Japanese cars. They're cheap, or at least they were cheap, and they work much better than the Russian cars. Go figure. So they're getting upset. And China basically has come right out, flat out, and told, people graduating from university, we will find you meaningful work. Now the thing about China is they are really freaked out by this because by the end of November, 10 million migrant workers had lost their jobs nationwide. And 4.85 of those had returned home, according to government figures. And the central government is China's highest governing body, issued a decree to local governments over the weekend, ordering them to create jobs for migrant workers who had returned to their hometowns. These are millions of people who are really upset with the government. And of course, if you have young people who are recently graduated from university, they are educated. There is nothing like an educated youth to overthrow a government. So they're scared crapless. Okay. Next. Bank of China furious at Deutsche Bank. Debt move. I mentioned a few days ago that Deutsche Bank have decided to not pay one of their bonds. They're going to carry it on. They didn't call the option on the bond. They're going to continue paying interest on it. China has basically told Deutsche Bank that they are cut off. China will never deal with Deutsche Bank ever again. And they are telling other banks, European banks, US banks, whatever, if you pull anything similar, you will not get any of our money. And China has trillions of dollars to kick about. Default by Kuwait investment house. Hits Gulf reputation as financial hub. Right. The Kuwaiti investment house, one of the region's biggest institutional investors, confirmed that it was unable to repay a $200 million loan and had appointed HSBC to renegotiate the deal. So they're not paying the loan. They're saying, right, sorry, we're going to go renegotiate this. We'll find some other sucker bank to give us the money. This is starting to happen all over the place. Okay, people revolting. The peasants are revolting. Iceland. Remember Iceland? For richer, for poorer, the struggle to survive after banking collapse. I won't go into much detail on this one. It is linked at the side. It's actually a very interesting story about how young people in Iceland are just scared. They don't know what they're going to do. More stuff, tech markets. Right. So here we are. Sorry. Christmas shutdown in Silicon Valley. Right. So everyone seems to think that the tech industry is slightly immune to all of this. Well, they're not completely immune. For instance, manufacturers of PCs, Hewlett-Packard, Dell, chip makers, Intel, AMD, they're creating consumer products. These are expensive consumer products, relatively. Cost you a few $100s, $600, whatever, to buy a decent laptop. You can buy a cheap one, cheaper than that, but to buy a decent laptop, it's going to cost you at least $600, $700. People are saying, well, hang on a second, I've got this old computer, what do I need a new one for? I'm not buying. So, a lot of the manufacturers are going, oh, bother. In an effort to keep themselves running, what they're doing is they're imposing like a 2-week holiday over Christmas. And for, basically there's 4 public holidays between Christmas and New Year in the States. And the remaining days are going to come out of people's holiday pay. And if they don't have holiday pay built up, they're out of luck. Never a good thing. So these are all the things that happened overnight. Starting to freak me out. Yeah, I got kind of freaked out last night. I had to call up my mother and say, Mom, what am I going to do? And she said, you'll be fine. Why? She's Scottish. Why? You nae worry. Right, last one. Santa Claus writes, hello, boys and girls. As you might imagine, this is a very busy time for Santa. I have quite literally 1,000,001 things to do before Christmas Eve, and I haven't even started my shopping yet. Yes, Santa must shop too. Do you think Mrs. Claus would be happy with something I knocked up in the workshop? Okay. With everyone so worried about the credit crunch, it's worth pointing out that for some people, the downturn has proven to be a blessing, and that includes Santa. For me, it means smaller lists, a lighter sack, and fewer Rolexes in Damien Hirst works to produce. The elves really hate making that stuff. And what do elves know? If you left it to the elves, everyone would be getting a Jack Vetriano painting this year. No, my friends, the biggest threat to Christmas is not the recession, it's global warming. Every year we see the changes here at the North Pole. At Christmas headquarters. Normally we've got deep drifts of pristine white snow right up to the windowsills year-round. But this summer, the ice and snow retreated further than ever, leaving bare earth visible for the first time in many centuries. The good news is, I found my bike. So there you go. Santa is happy. Everyone have a good Christmas. Merry Christmas. Have a good time with your families. I'll speak to you all after Christmas. Cheers. Bye. Oh, and remember, don't panic.